evening and welcome to the Thai PBS World. Trade barrier, especially between the US and China, has become one of the major factors holding the global economic slowdown, and that appears in the report by International Monetary Fund or IMF. And when looking at the regional outlook that the IMF has launched the report last Friday, the IMF Deputy Director on Asia and Pacific during his visit to Thailand has indicated that the implication of trade barriers between the US and China has outcome on Asia and in Thailand as well. I asked him during the interview.
Restoring the rules-based multilateral system and fundamentally addressing the source of the trade tensions in many areas, including IP protection, technology transfer, SOE subsidies, and so forth, that confronting these issues is in the interests of both the key players of the US and China and more broadly of the world, that we need to get back to a situation where there is more certainty about the rules of the game, so that what Keynes referred to as animal spirits, which is an important driver of investment and growth, firms can really feel that if they're going to put money in a country for a project, the rules that will govern whether that project is going to succeed or not, those rules are clear. Only in those conditions will firms actually have the spirit to invest and get the economies back on a stronger footing.
What should be the role that IMF can take in order to influence the decision on the US and China? Both countries are also members of the IMF. Can IMF exert more power in terms of telling them what they should do?
The role of the IMF is to explain the consequences of the path that we are on. When we showed, for example, in our latest multilateral exercises and the World Economic Outlook, that the trade war in all its dimensions, not just the tariffs, but the effects on financial markets, on confidence, on productivity, that this war was contributing to something like a 0.7, 0.8 reduction in global GDP. That's a magnitude that's, to put it in perspective, broadly the same size as the entire economy of Switzerland. So it's a big chunk of the global economy. It's costly for the parties themselves, and it's costly for the world. So China loses a lot from this trade war, but the United States also loses. And so, we want to have a sort of a dispassionate exercise that can incentivize parties to see what the costs are and hopefully come to agreement to overcome their differences.
Regarding Thailand, the second largest economy in ASEAN, and we are export-led country, the forecasted predicted growth in Thailand is also quite low, especially when you compare with other countries of ASEAN, 2.9%. What's the effect that Thailand is having right now?
Thailand is integrated in global value chains, in global technology chains, in electronics and manufacturing. It's an outward-oriented economy. So naturally, it has been affected by these global developments, and we have accordingly revised down our global outlook for Thailand this year and next. But there are also other issues that are more domestic in nature that are also contributing to the slowdown in Thailand.
So you mean domestic saving in Thailand is quite high, and from economic perspective, people should spend more and the government should spend more. But if people do not have confidence in the economy and they would rather save than spending, what should economists tell them?
The economy is, as you said at the beginning, is relatively weak in Thailand. Public policy in those situations has a role to give confidence by providing demand stimulus in a way that's going to strengthen economic growth and jobs and so forth. And so that process of public policy being counter-cyclical, supporting the economy in weak times, is something that should give people more confidence.
Do you suggest structural reform in Thailand economically? And what's the take that policymaker or the government should take in order to cope with Industrial Revolution 4.0?
Now, to continue to reap the benefits from new technologies, all countries, Thailand included, will have to up their game in terms of making sure that their workforces are prepared. That involves education and training and lifelong learning. It also means continuing to integrate with other countries in the region and the world, because more integration makes firms more competitive. Competitive pressures from being open to foreign technologies and foreign trade, and in both goods and services, actually increases economic efficiency and allows firms to be in a better position to reap the benefits from new technologies. So there are many things that governments working with the private sector can do, allow the economy to fully reap the benefits from new technologies and the Industrial Revolution 4.0.
In the regional outlook, you also touch upon financial capital flow in the region. And what do you see the situation of the digital currency, and what's the risk that you are seeing, especially in this region?
So I think that this region, like others, like a few others, has been at the forefront of fintech and sees the opportunities that new financial technologies can bring, including allowing easier transfers of money and remittances and so forth. So these are important areas that financial regulators need to be wary of, including the potential for these new technologies to be used to get around AML, CFT type of issues. I think many of the central banks here are very seized of these issues and see both the potential for fintech as well as the risks, and they're being attentive to them.
And that's all from Thai PBS World tonight.